Hi everyone! So while I was away, the Tough Break update was released, and just as I feared, they changed my dear Pyro. The update brought along some balances to Pyro that changed the way the class is played in many different ways. So today, we are going to look at the new Degreaser and how it matches up against the previous version and other Pyro flamethrowers. Speedrunning the stats of the weapon reveals that it no longer boosts all-around switch speed. Instead, it boosts switch to speed by 60% and switch from speed by 30%. The direct fire damage penalty has also been removed. Air blast cost was increased by 25%, and the afterburn penalty was increased from 25% to 66%. Some general changes that also affect this weapon include the base switch speed bonus, in which all weapons switch in 0.5 of a second rather than 0.67, and air blast no longer restricts the movement of the enemy, thus allowing the air blasted class to strafe away from the Pyro's initial aim. Sounds like a disaster, right? Not quite. Let's first look at why the weapon was nerfed. Before the Tough Break update, the Degreaser was considered the best Pyro primary weapon. This was due to the fact that the most efficient and effective way to do damage as Pyro was to air blast the enemy and use your secondary to finish them off. Although this worked very well and allowed Pyro to counter most of the other classes, it also set itself apart as the best possible option out of all the choices. The insignificant amount of extra damage you could deal with the stock flamethrower wasn't as powerful as the burst damage output that the Degreaser would allow for. The ability to jump into a fight, do an insanely fast 90 to 120 damage, and then retreat before anyone could react was unbeatable by any of Pyro's other weapons. Let's take a look at the individual stats and see what was changed and try to identify what each change means. The all-around switch speed bonus was removed and replaced with a fast switch from speed and an even faster switch to speed. This was changed most likely to increase the skill ceiling of the already easy class. Pyros used to be able to pound someone with roughly 80 to 150 damage within a second, and the speed also allowed for a trick called the flare punch. To do the trick, a Pyro would fire his flamethrower and then fire the flare gun as fast as possible after switching. The flare would catch up with the flames and hit the target at the same time. This means that if a Pyro was hit, the flames would light him on fire long enough for the flare to impact, allowing the enemy Pyro to receive a critical hit. The flare punch could be done at virtually any distance from the target. Although the trick is still possible, the slower switch from speed requires the enemy to be within a specific window farther in front of you, and therefore requires a bit more practice to master. In addition to making flare punching more difficult, the reduced speed increased the time that the air blasted enemy has to react. Coupled with the ability to air strafe out of the air blast, an airborne class can now avoid a shot altogether since the Pyro has to concentrate harder on landing shots following the blast. Next, the 25% direct damage penalty was removed, and the afterburn penalty was increased from 25% to 66%. Resulting in the Degreaser doing the same direct damage as the flamethrower, but also making its afterburn only 1 damage per second. It seems as if Valve is hinting to players that they wish that Pyro would be played with fire in mind. Although the Degreaser will still be used as a complement to Pyro's secondary weapon, the direct damage buff will encourage many Pyros to choose fire over burst damage in many cases. I found that the Degreaser is much more effective than it used to be when attempting to kill heavies or take out sentries around corners. In addition to all the things mentioned above, the Degreaser now takes 25 ammo to air blast instead of the normal 20. This means that you will be able to execute 8 air blasts using the Degreaser compared to the 10 of the stock flamethrower. This really doesn't affect gameplay much if you remain aware of how much you reflect and when you choose to use your air blast. I'm pretty content with the Degreaser rebalance. It was an amazing weapon before, and I loved using it, but the changes made during the Tough Break update have made it much more feasible to use stock, or even some of the other primary weapons. The changes also raised the skill ceiling of Pyro significantly, as aim just became a major reality for anyone wishing to play the class well. What are your thoughts about the change to this weapon? Feel free to share below what you like, don't like, or any other Pyro-related stuff that you want covered in the future. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see all of you guys next time.